Today, businesses thrive on high bandwidth connectivity, but how can we get the most out of the networks we use? Software-defined networking is emerging as a great way to ensure throughput while keeping a lid on costs. Hi, I'm Stan Gibson, and I'll be your host for this series of 4 brief webcasts focusing on the software-defined data center and related technologies. In this webcast, we'll explore software-defined networking with expert Rick Villers, Senior Vice President for Data Center and Cloud at IDC. Rick, we hear the term software-defined networking, or SDN, being bandied about quite a bit. What's your definition?
Well, Stan, the simple way to think about software-defined networking here is that we're talking about a virtualization of network functions. We've all in the past associated virtualization with servers, and I can change a compute delivery model. But thinking about all those things that reside in your network, the actual provisioning of bandwidth, the creating of connections between different systems, the creation of firewalls, VLANs or vSANs to help segment your network. In the past, those were all things that you kind of had to do through the intelligence and physical devices. What you're doing with software-defined networking is you're creating a virtual overlay on top of that to make it a lot easier to deploy and manage and deliver those types of services across many different devices and network environments. But there's a bit more to software-defined networking than that. One thing you have to understand is that software-defined networking really plays in both the data center, so inside your data center, connecting all the servers and compute systems in that building, but also at the wide area network level. So connecting your data centers, connecting your branch offices and endpoints. There's places where you can use software-defined networking for both of those. So in the data center space, a lot of software-defined networking really is about network segmentation, ways of using this agility and provisioning to improve security, performance, and frankly, even make it easier to bind services and applications across 2 networks. So you can basically create a virtual network that extends multiple data centers. You can use that for migration. You can use that for availability and reliability and other pieces. When we get into the wide area network world, what we're really talking about here is, can we make the existing carrier networks or those wide area networks we use as agile, as easy to provision as today's virtual server might be? And here you're talking about a whole range of new technologies and solutions, often called network function virtualization, which is an initiative by carriers to do this, but also software-defined WAN. So a way that you can better add agility and reliability to your wide area networks using software-defined technologies is also a part of this. A lot of people today also find that I should address, think that software-defined networking is about using open hardware, that I can basically go out and buy industry standard components, put them together, and I have a sort of lower cost, long-term, easy-to-operate network environment. That's absolutely part of the story of software-defined networking. There are many companies in the cloud space, many carriers who are evaluating this. But frankly, you don't have to do that to get a lot of the benefits of software-defined networking. Applying it today in your existing environment to extend the capabilities is a big payoff that you can get already.
Rick, could you elaborate a little bit on how SDN helps contain costs?
So there's a couple of ways that this happens. So first of all, there's the operational cost. So the time and effort it takes to provision a new circuit, whether that's inside the data center. So when I'm setting up a new server, I'm setting up a new application set, or I'm reconfiguring systems. Often you can do many of the elements automatically, but then if you have to stop and do a manual setup of the network elements, that slows down the whole provisioning process. So a lot of cost savings come with time to market and delivery here. Other big benefits that you do ultimately start getting with software-defined networking is you can start attacking some of the network challenges around security, firewall management, load balancing management in a much more coherent, consistent, sort of crossed enterprise way, and that's a big payoff as well. Lastly, certainly the ability in the future to leverage more open, standardized hardware will have a long-term benefit and cost benefit in many data center environments. And that's something that we do think companies are going to increasingly be looking at, even if it's not all available on day one.
How does SDN help provide more bandwidth?
Well, the key here is that SDN provides you a way to more effectively and quickly segment your bandwidth. So inside the data center, this means that you can actually create and isolate different systems so you can ensure performance and reliability for certain applications, which is absolutely critical in this new digital mobile world where you're creating a new environment, a new virtual application service you better make sure you can provide the right bandwidth at the right time for it. Because that's part of the other challenge with this is you're dealing with a much more variable network environment. And part of how you ensure more bandwidth is you ensure that at any given time that you can deliver the right applications, the right amount of bandwidth. And when another set of applications need it at a different time, you can re-provision those resources to it. So some of providing more bandwidth is I'm using my existing bandwidth more efficiently. The other way that we see that software-defined networking is going to help us get more bandwidth is it's going to make it possible for carriers to deliver more flexible bandwidth to us. So rather than just saying, yes, we can give you a pipe for a year-long rate, and it's the same rate the whole time, the same speed, now they can say, yes, you would like 10 gigabits for 5 hours, and then for the rest of the day, you'd like 1 gigabit. So now you can tune your bandwidth more effectively without having to go through those long-term, unflexible provisioning resources that we often associate today with the carrier network world.
Rick, how would you recommend transitioning from an existing network to an SDN?
There's a whole range of ways that people have tried to take advantage of software-defined networking. The one that we find most organizations are really benefiting from today is it is changing the way they think about provisioning their resources in their data center as well as in cloud data center, so in a hosted cloud environment. By taking advantage of microsegmentation, by basically putting small groups of servers together in a very isolated pool, you're providing a significantly improved level of security. You're providing a significantly improved level of predictable performance for those applications and services. And those are the real payoffs as we see as companies are really trying to say, I want to use my existing environment. I want to take more advantage of cloud. Can I use software-defined networking as a way to make that easier, simpler, and faster? That's where we see a lot of people taking advantage of it today. I would close with one thing, though, is I think a lot of people in this software-defined networking, part of your way of getting that benefit and doing the transition is even reframing the question a little bit. So people think about software-defined networking, but what I would tell you is that in many of these environments, the benefit you're looking for from software-defined networking is really about security. If you think about in today's IT data center landscape, security is a much more complex issue than it was, say, 5-10 years ago. You're still worried about protecting the integrity of your systems and your information, but increasingly you're also worried about providing the fidelity so that you're providing and protecting the performance levels of those services and applications. You're concerned about controlling the content and who's accessing that content and how it's being used, and you're also concerned about controlling the data and flow of data across all of those. And if you really think about how companies today are going to solve those 4 security challenges, it's really going to come down to how can they use the network and a smart, intelligent network like a software-defined network to actually enable what IDC is often called software-defined compliance and software-defined security. A great way to jumpstart your thinking when it comes to software-defined networking is to put SDN in the context of security. So today in our modern data centers, when we think about security, we're really thinking about 4 different tasks. I have to protect the integrity of my systems and my information. I have to provide improved fidelity, ensuring that information is being delivered effectively and timely with no interruptions and no performance hiccups. I need to manage and control my content and my data. Who's using it, how they're using it, are they authorized to use it? Now, all those things are critical challenges that IT and data center organizations have to think about. And when you really think about how are companies going to solve it, it's going to be with networking, by leveraging and taking advantage of a much more agile, flexible network to address and attack all these issues. So one of the key messages we tell people is, as part of your planning for using SDN in your network, really don't think about it as SDN. Think about it as software-defined security and software-defined compliance. How can I take advantage of these technologies and the flexibility I'm getting in my network solutions to attack those core business challenges?
Thanks, Rick. I've been speaking with IDC Senior Vice President Rick Villers on the topic of software-defined networking. Check out the 3 other webcasts in this series, an overview of the software-defined data center, a look at converged infrastructure, and software-defined storage. For IDG, Dell, and Intel, I'm Stan Gibson.